If you can still run, there'll be a time when you can't lace them up anymore, but you can still run. So I still run. When the time comes I can't run, the body will say, you just can't run. But if I can still do something, that willpower that I have created, it makes me do it every fucking day. And that's what they don't get. What builds a human being is you start with the small building blocks. And before you know it, man, you become something that it doesn't even make sense to most people because it's just who you are now. That's why I can still run at 50 at 49 with broke down knees and broke down body, because my body knows you still can. Therefore I do. Second you stop, the willpower is gone. Because when you have no parents raising you and you have no role models growing up, it's not daydreaming. You start to create a reality like, maybe I can be that. But what it takes is a discipline that no one can ever even, they don't understand it. Everybody has the ability to do it, but they just don't want to. And the greatness is right in you. I will not sugarcoat what I'm going to say to you, because all of you know what I'm saying is the truth. Mm-hmm.
Because it's that I don't want to do something, but do it anyway.
That's right.
That grows this area. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I have a friend, he's been sober 30 years from alcohol. Mm-hmm. And he always says, the amazing thing about addiction is there's a cure. The problem is it only works one day at a time.
Yep.
And so you have to renew it every day.
That's right.
So the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, to me, when I learned about it, two things went off in my head. Whoa, this is super interesting. And two, I got to tell David Goggins about this. And I waited until now to tell you, because I felt like, for obvious reasons, I wanted to tell you, and I wanted to tell you here.
Well, I love that, because that's how I've lived my entire life. I don't know anything about that. But people go, man, you have such a strong will. And I have to outwork that voice. When I'm taking that test and I get to a question, I don't fucking know the answer, I'm like, fuck, man. And then say, I told you, man, that ain't you. You're 300 pounds, man. You sit at home, you figure out how to do your hair. That's what you do. How to come to school with the reverse baldness when you're 16. That's you. So there is no get out of jail free card. This is why I say stay hard. They're missing this feeling. I found it a long time ago. I found it right there in that willpower thing. When you're nothing, and change yourself into something like me, you call it happiness, peace, whatever the fuck you want to call it, people are missing exactly what went on with David Goggins. You find it in the suck. You find it in the suck, and you find it repeatedly in the suck, to the point where you know exactly who you are. Most people are missing something because they don't know who they are.
People will look back to a time where they felt like they were capable of something, and now they're not. Mm-hmm. And you kind of want to just grab them and go, wait, that was you then, it's you now. But people tend to think about how the conditions that were around success must have been part of it. And you can understand why. It's like, it's very rational. I was in that situation, I was successful. I'm in this situation, I'm not. That was the past, this is the present, ergo capable, right? You see how people get into these loops. And as you mentioned, you spent the first 20 years of your life in extremely challenged circumstances. Very. And then you can see how people get to a point where, like, everything feels hard. Like when you're 300 pounds, I haven't never been 300 pounds, but I can't imagine it feels good to get up and move around.
It's defeating. Very.
And then you can see how people get to a point where, like, everything feels hard. Like when you're 300 pounds, I haven't never been 300 pounds, but I can't imagine it feels good to get up and move around.
It's defeating.
I got a friend, he's in excess of 300 pounds. We've been trying on him for years, but no win. And he's got crazy psoriasis on the back of his calves, and he actually smells bad sometimes because he can't wash as well as he would. He's big.
Right. Everybody has the ability to do it, but they just don't want to. They want to keep asking questions and keep going to seminars. And the greatness is right in you. And that's why, once again, I'll say this a million times here, I do not feel sorry for you. I will not sugarcoat what I'm going to say to you, because all of you know what I'm saying is the truth.
Little neuroscience tidbit.
Love it.
But I think it's one that you'll appreciate. Most people don't know this, but there's a brain structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. As we pointed out before, that's a noun, it's a name, it doesn't mean anything. We could call it the Cookie Monster.
Right.
But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans, not some mouse study, showing that when people do something they don't want to do, like add 3 hours of exercise per day or per week, or when people who are trying to diet and lose weight resist eating something.
Right. And I have to outwork that voice. When I'm taking that test and I get to a question, I don't fucking know the answer, I'm like, fuck, man. And then say, I told you, man, that ain't you. You're 300 pounds, man. You sit at home, you figure out how to do your hair. That's what you do. How to come to school with the reverse baldness when you're 16. That's you. So there is no get out of jail free card. This is why I say stay hard. After a while, I lived a life so disciplined that everybody that I once looked to, these fake characters, I built that as a man. And when I was younger, I had this image in my mind of what does a man look like to me? And I got all these people who were badasses, characters. And in my mind, I became that. And that's what kept me going a lot, was I had this pipe dream of becoming a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
That's part of it, necessary but not sufficient, as we say in science. But the suck part, the being haunted, the stick, they're really unpleasant terms.
Very.
These are probably the most unpleasant terms we've ever used on this podcast.
Very.
Those are the levers. Those are the gears. And without those, this thing that you're talking about, David Goggins, as a verb.
Right.
You know, I sometimes make the joke, but it's not a joke.
Right.
Goggins is a name and it's a verb. People go, I'm going to Goggins that.
Right.
Right. But that's, I think, again, I'm not a psychologist, but I think that's what you're talking about. The stick, the friction, being haunted. It's the suck part that grows this anterior mid-cingulate cortex.
Second you stop, the willpower is gone. And that's beautiful. At 24 years old, I started building something that I didn't even know was going to be what it is now at 49. That's why I can still run at 50 at 49 with broke down knees and broke down body, because my body knows you still can. Therefore, I do. I'm so glad you brought that to me, because I always wondered, what's this separation thing now? And that's all it was just that.
This structure, anterior mid-cingulate cortex, has inputs and outputs from a bunch of places, but you'll probably not be surprised to learn that it's strongly activated when we move our body, when we don't want to move our body.
No, man. No. That's where the demons come in. That's where you're like, I don't want to be better. I don't want to be better. If this is what it takes to be better, I don't want to be better. So that's why there's a lot of average. And it makes me so fucking mad. Every day I walk this earth and I see average all over the fucking place. And they want to ask me, how did you do it? I can't tell you how, because you're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to continue being out, because every day you wake up, like he says, it's not like get the coffee, make the pancakes, kiss the girl, kiss the kids. You wake up, right to work. Immediately your mind is in action. No one wants to do that. No one. And I don't blame them, because that wasn't how I lived. That wasn't how I lived. I woke up like every human being does and goes, fuck, man, I'm a fucking piece of shit today. How the hell is this going to work out for me? And you fight that. You don't override it. There's no override button. It's the conversation in your head. So how do you do that? We don't have enough of these conversations about the real conversation that every human being is having. And they have no idea how to get out of it, but they do. It's that shit right there, man. You gotta build your will. When you're nothing, and change yourself into something like me, you call it happiness, peace, whatever the fuck you want to call it, people are missing exactly what went on with David Goggins. Why don't you smile? I do. But I figured something out. That's why you'll never hear me say I'm missing something. I know what you're saying right now. I didn't know any of this. And I always talk to people, I wish I could just put this on paper, and you're saying it in a way that people can understand. I could never put into words on what I built and the power that is within all of us. But you put it so like in a scientific way. Most people, like for me, he's just crazy. That's why I don't like talking about it, man. I know I'm not crazy. I know what I had to do to get where I had to go. People look at it as crazy because they're people that just, if you can't imagine yourself doing something, the person that's doing it is crazy. I used to do that when I was fat. Rocky, I mean, people know that was my thing. Round 14 was my thing. And as I got older and older and older, that started to go away. And I started to create, I had all these people that I used to watch. Rocky was one, Barnes, Elias from Platoon, Jack from A Few Good Men, you know, he's on the stand going crazy. I saw a lot of these characters that I looked at and I was like, man, I ain't got none of that. After a while, I lived a life so disciplined that everybody that I once looked to, these fake characters, I built that as a man. And when I was younger, I had this image in my mind of what does a man look like to me? Because when you weren't given the gifts, the only thing you can do in life is stay hard. All you can do is outwork the man that God created or woman in you. And what that looks like is unfun. That's why I said, do not do a documentary on me. Because people will not see the truth. They will see what they want to see. I don't want to live like that. Good.
I've long been a believer in getting regular blood work done for the simple reason that many of the factors that impact your immediate and long-term health can only be analyzed from a quality blood test. Now, a major problem with a lot of blood tests out there, however, is that you get information back about metabolic factors, lipids, and hormones and so forth, but you don't know what to do with that information. With Inside Tracker, they make it very easy because they have a personalized platform that allows you to see the levels of all those things, metabolic factors, lipids, hormones, etc., but it gives you specific directives that you can follow that relate to nutrition, behavioral modification, supplements, etc., that can help you bring those numbers into the ranges that are optimal for you. If you'd like to try Inside Tracker, you can go to insidetracker.com/Huberman to get 20% off any of Inside Tracker's plans.